Good morning. Welcome to MBA 1002, Organizational Behavior. This is a very interesting subject. In first chapter, we will learn about communication in the digital age. Communication is defined as the exchange of information between a sender and a receiver, and the perception of meanings between the individuals involved. Managers who understand this process can analyze their own communication patterns as well as design communication programs that fit organizational needs. In the digital age, the use of computer and information technology is dramatically affecting many aspects of organizational behavior. Electronic communication, which is discussed later in this chapter, can be used to communicate with a large number of dispersed persons and is potentially a very fast medium. Electronic communications also tend to save money compared with paper-based alternatives. But experts disagree over whether paper or electronic messages are more secure. There are two types of channels of communication. Firstly, formal channel, where its path follow the authority chain. The message are related to professional activities. On the other hand, informal channel, which is a spontaneous channels from the individual choice. The message often personal or social. This section reviews a perceptual process model of communication. As we all know, communicating is not that simple or clear-cut. Communication is always facing difficulty of miscommunication. In recognition of this, researchers have begun to examine communication as a form of social information processing, in which receivers interpret messages by cognitively processing information. This view led to development of a perceptual model of communication that depicts communication as a process in which receivers create meaning in their own minds. Let us consider the parts of this process. Firstly, sender will send message to the receiver. Communication begins when a sender encodes an idea or thought. Encoding entails translating thoughts into a code or language that can be understood by others. This forms the foundation of the message. For example, if a professor wants to communicate to you about an assignment, he or she must first think about what information he or she wants to communicate. Once the professor resolves this issue in his or her mind, which is the encoding process, he or she can select a medium or a channel, alright, with which to communicate. Managers can communicate through a variety of media. Potential media include face-to-face conversations, telephone calls, email, voicemail, video conferencing, written memos or letter, photograph or drawing, meeting, bulletin boards, computer output, and chart or graph. Choosing the appropriate media depends on many factors, including the nature of the message, its intended purpose, the type of audience, proximity to the audience, time horizon for disseminating the message, and personal preference. All media have advantages and disadvantages. Face-to-face conversation, for example, are useful for communicating about sensitive or important issues that require feedback and intensive interaction. In contrast, telephones are convenient, fast, and private, but lack of non-verbal information. Decoding occurs when receivers receive a message. It is the process of interpreting and making sense of a message. Returning to our example of a professor communicating about an assignment, decoding would occur among students when they receive the message from the professor. Then feedback will be sent back to the sender. Noise represents anything that interferes with the transmission and understanding of a message. This is important. Please remember that noise affects message encoding, decoding, and it may appear in any parts of the process. There are three directions of communication. Firstly, upward communication, which is communicate with superior. Secondly, lateral communication, which is communication with colleagues. Thirdly, downward communication, which is communicate with subordinate. Interpersonal communication may occur in one or more of these forms: oral, written, or non-verbal. You can improve your communication competence through communication styles. This is very important. Please take note that communication styles consist of assertiveness, aggressiveness, and non-assertiveness. An assertive style is expressive and self-enhancing behavior which does not take advantage of others. Remember, an assertive style is expressive and self-enhancing behavior which does not take advantage of others. The advantages of oral communication is speed, feedback, and simple to correct, while the disadvantages is potential for distorted message when passed through a number of people. Listening is very important in oral communication. Listening involves much more than hearing a message. Hearing is merely the physical component of listening. Listening is the process of actively decoding and interpreting verbal messages. Listening requires cognitive attention and information processing. Hearing does not. So hopefully you are listening to the lecture, not hearing to this lecture recording. This is very important. Challenging yourself is a key to effective listening. Alright? Please take note on this. Challenging yourself is a key to effective listening. This is the 5 dominant listening styles. This is very important. The 5 dominant listening styles are appreciative, empathetic, comprehensive, discerning, and evaluative. This is very important too. Good listener use the following 10 listening habits. The first one, capitalize on thought speed by staying with the speaker and listening between the lines. Second, listen for ideas rather than facts. Third, identify areas of interest between the speaker and listener. Fourth, judge content and not delivery. Fifth, do not judge until the speaker has completed his or her message. 6. Put energy and effort into listening. 7. Resist distractions. 8. Listen to both favorable and unfavorable information. 9. Read or listen to complex material to exercise the mind. And lastly, number 10. Take notes when necessary and use visual aids to enhance understanding. Please take note on this slide or the 10 listening habits. The advantages of written communication are: provide a tangible and verifiable record. Record can be stored for an indefinite period of time, physically available for later reference, and more likely to be well thought out, logical, and clear. The disadvantages are time consuming, lack of feedback, and may not be read after a long period. Communication accuracy is enhanced when one's facial expression and gesture are consistent with the intent of a message. Interestingly, people may not even be aware of this issue. This is very important. The linguistic style refers to a person's typical speaking pattern, and powerful non-verbal cue would be touching, facial expression, and handshaking. Please take note. The linguistic style refers to a person's typical speaking pattern, and powerful non-verbal cue, like hints, powerful non-verbal cue would be touching, facial expression, and handshaking. Different type of networks provide different benefit. Chain network gives best accuracy. View network facilitate leadership development, while all channel provides member satisfaction. The grapevine. The grapevine is not the red wine that we drink. The grapevine is to hear something through the grapevine is to learn about something informally or gossip. It can also simply refer to an overheard conversation or anonymous sources of information. It is not controlled by management, often perceived by employees as being more believable and reliable. Please take note that email is an important medium because it reduces the cost, time, and increase teamwork. However, overload emails will reduce efficiency. Thus, managing your email should be scan first, read second. If you have any friends who are working in commercial life, you can try to ask them how is their email inbox. Some of them might facing a difficulties, like every day they are like 10 or hundreds of emails, new emails in their inbox. So it's impossible for them to read every email. That's why this is very important. Managing your email, you should scan first, read second. All of us know about internet. Have you ever heard of extranet? It connects employees with selected customers, suppliers, and strategic partners. So please take note, extranet. It connects internal employees with selected external customers, suppliers, and strategic partners. So please take note of things that I mentioned in these slides. It's very important. The limitations of email are easy to misinterpret. Should not be used for negative messages. Overuse and overwhelms. People are emotionally disinhibited or no emotion. And also privacy concern. IM, instant messengers. IM usage has become more popular at work because users can see which of their contacts are currently online and can have chats in real time simultaneously with several people. For example, WhatsApp, WeChat, and so on and so forth. Facebook is the largest free social networking software. Individuals post information about themselves publicly and may be seen by potential employers, current employers, and police. Recently, a private company manager are brought to court due to defamation. He insulted the young debutant Agong in his Facebook post. He lost his job and his future career definitely affected. Weblogs or blogs is another public-private space. It is very popular in the past until Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat took over the trend. Video conferencing, also known as teleconferencing, use video and audio links along with computers to enable people in different locations to see, hear, and talk with one another. This allowed people from many locations to conduct a meeting without having to travel. This slide is very important. Please take note. Every element of perceptual model of communication is a potential process barrier. Process barrier. There are 8 personal barriers. Alright? There are 8 personal barriers that commonly influence communication. First, the ability to effectively communicate. Second, the way people process and interpret information. Third, the level of interpersonal trust between people. Fourth, the existence of stereotypes and prejudice. Fifth, the egos of the people communicating. Sixth, the ability to listen. 7. The natural tendency to evaluate or judge a sender message. 8. The inability to listen with understanding. This is the 8 personal barriers. Physical barriers pertain to distance, physical objects, time, and work, and office noise. This is physical barriers. Semantic barriers show up as encoding and decoding errors because these phases of communication involve transmitting and receiving words and symbols. Cultural diversity is a key contributor to semantic barriers. Please take note of what I mentioned in these slides. You may read more in chapter 1 in your notes, chapter 1, page number 4. Next chapter. How do you get others to carry out your wishes? Do you simply tell them what to do? Or do you prefer a less direct approach, such as promising to return the favor? Whatever approach you use, the critical point of this issue is social influence. A large measure of interpersonal interaction involves attempts to influence others, including parents, bosses, co-workers, spouse, teachers, friends, and children. Power is the capacity that A has to influence the behavior of B, so that B acts in accordance with A wishes. How people influence each other in organizations. There are 9 influence tactics. The approaches can be considered generic influence tactics because they characterize social influence in all directions: upward, lateral, or downward. For example, this is very important. Number 7, coalition tactics, which is getting others to support your efforts to persuade someone. Another very important point is number 4. which is getting someone in a good mood prior to make a request is called ingratiation. Some call the first 5 influence tactics soft tactics because they are friendlier than last 4 hard tactics. This slide is very important. Please take note. An influence attempt has 3 possible outcomes. 5 soft influence tactics are rational persuasion, inspirational appeals, consultation, ingratiation, and personal appeals. They are more friendly and less coercive than the 4 hard influence tactics, which are exchange, coalition tactics, pressure, and legitimating tactics. According to research, soft tactics are better for generating commitment and are perceived as more fair than hard tactics. Cialdini's 6 principles of influence and persuasion are liking, reciprocity, social proof, consistency, authority, and scarcity. Please take note of all the points I mentioned in these slides. You may read more in your notes, chapter 2, page 25. This is very important in organizational behavior course. French and relevant 5 bases of power are reward power, coercive power, legitimate power, expert power, and referent power. Please take note of these 5 bases of power. Researchers have identified the following relationships between power bases and work outcomes, such as job performance, job satisfaction, and turnover. So the power bases is what we learned from previous slides, the 5 power bases. Expert and referent power had a generally positive effect. Reward and legitimate power had a slightly positive effect. Coercive power had a slightly negative effect. A good example is Lorraine Bosinger, a vice president in charge of General Electric's Eco-Imagination program, which focus on GE environmental friendly products and promote GE activities with a positive impact on climate change. This position gave Bosinger a very weak degree of legitimate power, because she has no direct authority over the heads of the GE business unit, whose decisions she needs to influence. Bosinger increased her expert power by tracking sales of Eco-Imagination products, demonstrating that the Eco-Imagination product is contributing to GE bottom line success. Her track record at result-oriented GE has made her a respected leader in that company. A follow-up study involving 251 employed business school seniors looked at the relationship between influence styles and bases of power. This was a bottom-up study. In other words, employees' perceptions of managerial influence and power were examined. Rational persuasion was found to be a highly acceptable managerial influence tactic. Why? Because employees perceive it to be associated with the 3 bases of power they viewed positively, which are legitimate, expert, and referent. Combining tactics increase effectiveness. This is very important. Please take note. Empowerment. Empowerment involves sharing varying degree of power and decision-making authority with lower level employees to better serve the customer. According to Randolph model, empowerment requires active sharing of key information, structure that encourage autonomy, transfer of control from managers to teams, and persistence. Trust and training also are very important. Please take note of all the points I mentioned in these slides. First and foremost, power is not a zero-sum situation where one person gain is another loss. Social power is unlimited. This requires win-win thinking. The more power you give away, the more you have. Management experts have clarified this situation by defining participative management as a process whereby employees play a direct role in, first, setting goals, second, making decisions, third, solving problems, and fourth, making changes in the organization. Participative management includes but goes beyond simply asking employees for their ideas or opinions. At individual level, personal self-interests are pursued by the individual. Traits that encourage political actions are high self-monitors and high need for power. Politics occur when employees convert power into action. Organizational politics involve intentional acts of influence to enhance or protect the self-interest of individuals or groups. One of the political tactics, this is very important, associating with influence people. Please take note, one of the political tactics which is associating with influential people. Politics arise in organizations because of conflicting interests, limited resources, and ambiguity in decision making. Politicking is twisting facts to support one's own goals and interests. Thus, this is very important. Organization can keep organizational behavior in check by screening out overly political individuals at hiring time. Please take note, to keep the organizational behavior in check is to screen out overly political individuals at hiring time. Organizational factors that contribute to political behaviors are organizational resources declining, opportunity for promotion exists, and organizational culture issues. Impression management is defined as the process by which people attempt to control or manipulate the reactions of others to image of themselves or their ideas. Do you believe that there are employees who wish to maintain a bad impression? At first glance, the idea of consciously trying to make a bad impression in the working place seems absurd. But an interesting new line of impression management research has uncovered both motive and tactics for making oneself look bad. First, avoidance. Employee seeks to avoid additional works, stress, burnout, or an unwanted transfer or promotion. Second, obtain concrete reward. Employee seeks to obtain a pay raise or a desired transfer, promotion, or demotion. Third, exit. Employee seek to get laid off, fired, or suspended, and perhaps also to collect unemployment or worker compensation. Fourth, power. Employee seeks to control, manipulate, or intimidate others, get revenge, or make someone else look bad. This is very important. Please take note, the 5 unfavorable upward impression management tactics identified by the researcher are as follows. There are 5 unfavorable upward impression management. means to look bad in front of the superior. There are 5 tactics. Please take note. First, decreasing performance. So the first tactic is to decrease the performance. Restricting productivity, making more mistakes than usual, lowering quality, neglecting tasks. Second, not working to potential, pretending ignorance, having unused capability. Third, withdrawing, being tardy, taking excessive breaks, faking illness. Fourth, displaying a bad attitude, complaining, getting upset and angry, acting strangely, not getting along with co-workers. Fifth, broadcasting limitation, letting co-workers know about one physical problems and mistakes, both verbally and non-verbally. Please take note of these 5 unfavorable upward impression management tactics. Employees wish to maintain a positive impression to achieve a better outcome, either in interviews or performance evaluation. This is very important. Manager can reduce distortion in a variety of ways, including enhancing trust through a meaningful performance review process. Please take note. How to reduce distortion. Next chapter, designing effective organizations. As a necessary springboard for this chapter, we need to formally define the term organization and clarify the meaning of organization charts. An organization is a system of consciously coordinated activities or forces of 2 or more persons. This is very important. Please take note that a closed system is considered to be a self-sufficient entity, where an open system depends on its interaction with the environment to survive. 4 generic effectiveness criteria or dimensions of organizational effectiveness are goal accomplishment, resource acquisition, internal processes, and strategy constituency satisfaction. Please take note. An organization chart is a graphic representation of formal authority and division of labor relationship. Hierarchy of authority, working from bottom to top. Top with the highest authority, for example, CEO. In addition to showing the chain of command, the sample organization chart indicate extensive division of labor. Departmentalization means jobs are grouped together so that common tasks can be coordinated. Chain of command is an unbroken line of authority that extends from the top of the organization to the lowest echelon and clarify who reports to whom. Span of control is the number of employees a manager is expected to effectively and efficiently direct. This is very important. Centralize and decentralization. Centralized decision making occurs when decisions are made by top management. Please take note. Centralized decision making. Formalization is the degree to which jobs within the organization are standardized. The common organizational design are simple structure, bureaucracy, and matrix structure. Here, We may divide it to two types of organizations. This is very important. Please take note. Mechanistic versus organic organizations. Mechanistic organizations is rigid, while organic organization is flexible. So one is rigid, one is flexible. Mechanistic is rigid, organic is flexible. So organic organizations tend to be successful when the environment was unstable, because they are more flexible in making decision and strategy. Another type of organization is virtual organizations, which are geographically dispersed. Please take note, virtual organizations, one of the main criteria, they are geographically dispersed. Simple structure is suitable for small organizations. This is important. Bureaucracies is actually good for efficiency, because hierarchy of authority, division of labor, framework of rules, but need to avoid administrative interaction. So please take note on this. Bureaucracies is epitome for efficiencies. Matrix structure combines two forms of departmentalization. It creates dual chain of command. Later we will discuss in details by giving an example. For example, a lecturer from Decision and Information System Department will teach undergraduates. So this is the matrix. And another lecturer from Finance Department will involve in research. And lecturer from Management will in charge of community service. So this matrix structure involve two departments. This is very important. 7 basic ways organizations are structured. Please take note of these 7 basic ways. First, functional structures, in which work is divided according to function. Second, divisional structures, in which work is divided according to product or customer type or location. Third, matrix structure, with dual reporting structures based on product and function. Organizations also may be designed horizontally, which is number 4, the fourth type, with cross-functional teams responsible for entire processes. Organization design also may reduce barrier between organization, between number 5, hollow organizations, which outsource functions. Number 6, modular organizations, which outsource the production of a product component. Or 7, virtual organizations, which temporarily combine the efforts of members of different companies in order to complete a project. New style organizations are mostly team oriented. So please take note all the information in these slides. So which one is the best organization structure? So this is very important. Please take note. Mechanistic organizations and functional structures may be necessary when tight control is important and the environment is stable. On the other hand, organic organization allow for innovation in a rapidly changing environment. Divisional structures are a good fit when the organization needs deep knowledge of variety of customer groups, and the ability to respond to customer demand quickly. A matrix organization can deliver the advantages of functional and divisional structure if the company has superior managers who can communicate extensively, foster commitment and collaboration, and negotiate effectively to establish goals and priorities consistent with the organization's strategy. A horizontal design is a good fit when specialization is less important than the ability to respond to variety or changing customer needs. Hollow, modular, and virtual design are best when organizations have suitable partner they trust. Efficiency is very important. The organization can identify functions, processes, or product components to outsource. And in the case of a virtual organization, when the need to meet is temporary. Please take note. Next chapter, managing change and organizational learning. Major organizational changes can involve the organization strategy, leadership, culture, work processes, and organizational structure. Organizations encounter many different forces for change. These forces come from external sources outside the organization and from internal sources inside the organization. This is very important. External forces of change, they are demographic characteristic, technological advancement, customer and market changes, and social and political pressures. Please take note of these external forces of change. Internal forces for change come from inside the organization. Later we will discuss in details all these important approaches to managing organizational change. Levin 3-step model of change, Kotler 8-step model of the change process, and organizational development. This is very important. Resistance to change is an emotional or behavioral response to real or imagined threats to an established work routine. 11 reasons employees resist change are: first, an individual predisposition toward change. Second, surprise and fear of the unknown. Third, climate of mistrust. Fourth, fear of failure. Fifth, loss of status or job security. Sixth, peer pressure. 7. Disruption of cultural traditions or group relationships. 8. Personality conflicts. 9. Lack of tact or poor timing. 10. Non-reinforcing reward system. 11. Past success. Please take note of these 11 points. What is change agents? A person in organization responsible for managing change activities. Can be managers or non-managers, current employees, newly hired employees, or outside consultants. Outside consultants can provide objective perspective, but don't have to live with the consequences of change. This is very important. The 3 steps to change is very easy to understand. Try to imagine the ice in your fridge. To change the shape of the ice, first, you need to unfreeze it to become water. Then, second stage, you may change the shape by pouring it into a container. And the last stage, refreeze it in the fridge to become ice. So please take note of the sequence: unfreeze, change, and refreeze. This is also very important. A learning organization. What is a learning organization? A learning organization proactively creates, acquires, and transfer knowledge throughout the organization. Right? Please take note. This is very important. Kotter 8 steps for leading organizational change. John Kotter believes that organizational change fails for one or more of 8 common errors. He proposed 8 steps that organizations should follow to overcome these errors. The 8 steps are as follows. Please take note. First, establish a sense of urgency. Second, create the guiding coalition. Third, create new vision. Fourth, communicate the change vision. Fifth, empower broad-based action. Sixth, generate short-term wins. 7. Consolidate gains and produce more change. 8. Anchor new approach in the culture. Please take note of all 8 steps. Organizational development is a collection of planned change intervention that seek to improve organizational effectiveness and employee well-being. This is very important. 6 strategies for overcoming resistance to change. The first pair, education plus communication. Second pair, participation plus involvement. Third pair, facilitation plus support. Fourth pair, negotiation plus agreement. Fifth pair, manipulation plus co-optation. Sixth pair, explicit plus implicit coercion. Please take note of the pairing. Don't mix it up. OL, which is organizational learning, is a reflective process played out by members at all levels of the organization that involve the collection of information from both the external and internal environment. LO is one that proactively creates, acquires, and transfers knowledge, and that changes its behavior on the basis of new knowledge and insights. 5 basic characteristics of a LO is the people in the organization. First, they are willing to put aside their old ways of thinking. Second, learn to be open with each other. Third, understand how the organization really works. Fourth, can form a plan or vision that everyone agrees on. Fifth, can work together to achieve that vision. Learning capabilities are defined as a special knowledge, skills, and technological know-how that differentiate an organization from its competitors and processes that enable an organization to adapt to its environment. That's all. Thank you and wish you all the best in your exam.